Well, hello and welcome once more to the RMT Shipping Bulletin. We're joined today by the union's National Secretary, Steve Todd, and I began by asking him the significance of the training programme that's been put together after many months of discussions between the union and the other players in the industry.
Yeah, well, a significant breakthrough, I think, Derek, because if you look at the number of ratings being trained in the last 10 years, it's virtually non-existent. And the breakthrough today with the launch of the ratings training programme should well introduce at least 50 ratings a year to be trained. We're hoping it'll be upwards to 100 a year. And 100 is better than, or 50 is better than what we were getting before. As I said, virtually non-existent before today, but we've worked very hard with the MCA, the Merchant Navy Training Board and the nautical colleges to reduce the amount of time it takes to get a qualification to go to sea. The deck ratings and engineering ratings, sea school time and training time will be reduced significantly to allow them to work on ships. Although we've not watered down or reduced any of the safety aspect of the training, we've not devalued the able seaman certificates in any way, shape or form. We've done what we think is a positive move to give the industry a chance to say, right, now is the time to introduce a ratings training programme which will be funded partly by government sponsorship through the apprenticeship schemes, through the Skills Council. And if that doesn't encourage employers now to start training ratings, nothing will. This is probably the last ditch attempt for us. But it was very encouraging. There were quite a lot of ship owners there today. Everybody from the MCA was there, the MPs were there, and employers who will train ratings over the next couple of years were all alongside. And we're encouraged by the fact that there's already 50 ratings penciled in to go into training in September of this year. So all in all, a good positive news story for RMT, and as I say, at the first time in a number of years we've had some positive move on training.
Well, that's a bit of good news, but moving back up to Scotland now, there's not quite such good news on the CalMax situation, and unfortunately a bit of duplicity between the Scottish Government and, it would appear, the Caledonian McBrain Company. Yeah,
well, I think, Derek, what's happened there is I'm a suspicious person at the best of times, but one could forgive me for thinking there's been some kind of conspiracy between the Scottish Government and the employer. Certainly kept our members in the dark over the last few weeks. Certainly we're not in a position to tell our members that they'd bid for a passenger-only service. The Scottish Government themselves, the SNP, the previous government before the last election, had committed to building 2 new ferries for the service, and now they're saying they're not building 2 new ones, they're replacing them with 2 second-hand ones from somewhere else, both of which are far smaller than the previous craft that were on the route. And all in all, there are 60-odd jobs now that are in jeopardy. And the company are trying to mitigate their obligations, I think, by saying there's no obligation to talk to you legally about this because there's only so many redundancies. Whether it's 1 or 100 redundancies, there'll be an obligation for that company to talk to us industrially. And if they don't sit down and start talking to us properly very soon, we're going to go out there and campaign for our members to take action. Because not only are we faced now with the battle of the government trying to debundle the services, but the company now trying to defragment, if you like, the agreements. Gurrick Noon service is part of the Clyde agreement. The company is saying that these 2 new ferries on the Argyll and Bute company name, or company logo if you like, company livery, all part of the CalMax crew still, will be on different terms and conditions. Well, I'm sorry, no, they won't be on different terms and conditions. Our agreement is for the Clyde vessels, and the Gurrick Noon is part of that service. So there are people who will be fed up, there are people who will be worrying about their jobs, there are pier hands, there are sea staff, there are shore-based ticketing staff, all threatened with their jobs now. And the company are actually advertising for their jobs before consulting these people to ask them whether they're going to go. And I know people will be fed up and saying, well, I'm just going to take the money and go. But I know there are people who want to stay and want to fight for their jobs. And this union is prepared to put up a fight. We will, if necessary, ballot our members over the breakup of the Clyde agreement, if we can't ballot them over nothing else. But let me be quite clear. The company is saying we've got it wrong. We've got it right. We're defending our members' jobs and the terms and conditions, and in doing so, we're defending services. We're committed to that. We've been committed to that all the way through. People are being underhanded and being duplicitous about what they're doing up there, and they need to be upfront and be straight with this union and be straight with the workforce.
Thanks, Steve. Can we just turn briefly to the situation with discrimination at sea? I understand there have been some moves. I wonder if you can bring us up to speed again.
Yeah, well, people will be well aware now. We've been campaigning for over 30 years to try and get a review of the Race Relations Act and get the reform of the Race Relations Act, in particular Section 9, which allows for discrimination. We've been, should we say, somewhat successful in view of the fact that the governments have now been forced into a position where they've got to do something. Now, what they're going to do is the absolute minimum, which is as we suspected they would do. But what's been brought about, the change of heart, if you like, or the change of mind, not a change of heart by them, I wouldn't say that, they've been forced into position. Why have they been forced into the position? Because the RMT pursued a claim against them, pursued a complaint against them in Europe. And we went to the European Commission, to DG Trend. We wrote to them first of all, and we actually went in person, along with Nautilus, back in December, and complained that the UK government was still not living up to EU law and certainly openly discriminating against seafarers on the basis of their nationality. So we had the last government who were about to do something and said they would do something through the Single Equality Bill, didn't do it in time, didn't finish it in time, commissioned the Carter report. The Carter report said that the government were discriminating and proved it. This government, along with the last government, have completely ignored the Carter report, a report commissioned by them, paid for with taxpayers' money, have completely ignored it. But they will do the bare minimum. So it will not allow discrimination on UK flagships, and it will not allow discrimination on ships sailing between UK ports. Now we've got to try and get that widened in the broader context, and we've got to pursue that so that it stops all discrimination in UK ports or ships sailing out of UK ports. We'll never be able to do anything about the UK flagships that are the other side of the world. We'll never be able to do anything about that. We might as well just park that issue up and let's concentrate on protecting the home territories, whereby we've got jobs in the ferry sector and the offshore sector, and we need to do something to firm up the protection what we can there. But we need to end that discrimination, and now they'll be forced to do that to a certain extent. If we hadn't, in my view, and it's an honest view, I think people will say, you know, if they look at what we've done, if we hadn't, this union, RMT, pursued that complaint, this government or the last government would have done nothing at all. So I am happy to report, albeit a little bit disappointed it's not the full repeal, that something will happen. And that might create a level playing field for us in the industry. It will certainly, I think, dissuade the employers from going elsewhere to recruit the labour and bring it in, especially if you can't discriminate against the EU seafarers.
Great, Steve. Thanks very much indeed.